Greetings, M14 families. I hope everybody continues to stay healthy and safe. As we enter into the fall and the winter approaches, I thought it was appropriate that I film another facility guidelines video. Now's not the time that we need to loosen up. If anything, we need to tighten up. And I wanted to show everybody what were some of the guidelines and restrictions that we're going to be following this fall and winter so we can ensure a healthy and safe environment for our players as well as our staff. Number one, we will limit group sizes to 10, and no more than 3 groups will be on one court at one time, and they will be separated by staying on their courts and on their basket for the entire session. Number 2, for all group sessions, which will include camps, team practices, and training sessions, we will not use the front entrance. Players will now enter and exit the building directly onto the court they are training on. Communication on which door to enter will be emailed out before the first session and will not change. We ask players to wait in their cars until the session begins or practice social distancing while waiting by the door. Number 3, for all private lessons and shooting machine rentals, we will use the main door for entering and exiting. Number 4, we will only allow players and coaches in the building. Parents can wait in their cars in the parking lot until the session is over. The lobby, concession area, and film room will be closed until further notice. Number 5, we would like all players to be fully dressed before entering the building, and we would also like them to have a face mask on. Players will not train with a face mask on, but should wear it when entering and exiting the building. Number 6, players should bring their own basketballs. We also would like players to bring disinfectant wipes or a small bottle of soapy water with a wash rag. We will ask players to wipe their basketballs down before and after sessions. Number 7, we ask players to bring their own water to drink, which will help limit the usage of water fountains. Number 8, we will only be allowing 3 people in the bathrooms at one time. Number 9, we will have 10 minutes between sessions to ensure all players have exited the building, and that way our staff will be able to disinfect the bleachers and the benches before the next group enters. And number 10, sessions will be non-contact until further notice. With these parents, we're also going to be taking all staff and players' temperatures with our non-contact thermometer, and we ask that everybody uses a common sense approach. If your player's not feeling well, let's leave them at home. Overall, our goal is to mitigate as much risk as possible. We want to control what we can control. We can ensure that at the beginning of every session, the facility is back disinfected. But ultimately, every family is going to have to make the decision on if they're comfortable taking on the risk that's associated with the times we're in and the sport of basketball. To help further make that decision, the next topic I want to discuss is what is our policy if a player tests positive for COVID or comes in contact with somebody who has tested positive for COVID. We're seeing an increase in positive test results, and I think that's an unfortunate byproduct of us being in phase 4. Youth sports was able to get back going. Basketball tournaments were able to start. High school camps, though in limited capacity, was able to be facilitated. We saw an increase in family vacations and an increase just overall in social interaction. I have spoken to businessmen and women within the community, healthcare officials, parents, athletic directors, club coaches within basketball and outside of the sport, and they've all told me that they've either dealt with or are dealing with a parent, a staff member, or a player who has tested positive, and we have too. I think it's important that I give you all our policy because though we can take every precautionary measurement that we can, the unfortunate truth is a player or a parent may test positive. So here's what we've done and here's what we'll continue to do. If a player tests positive, the first thing we want to make sure is that that player makes a full recovery. That's an M14 kid who we care deeply about. That family is within the M14 community. We want to offer our support and our compassion, and we want to make sure that they make a full recovery. That player will need to go 7 days symptom-free and also have a negative test before they can return. If a player comes in contact with someone who has tested positive, we would ask that they go 7 days symptom-free from the last date of exposure and also have a negative test. If a family member has tested positive, we're going to assume, but we're also going to check to make sure that that family member has been quarantined, and we again ask that player to be 7 days symptom-free from the last date of exposure and also have a negative test. If a family chooses not to test, we're going to have to extend the 7 days to 14. So if a player, family may notify us and be alerted that a player may have COVID, we're going to ask that they go 14 days before they can return to the facility. If a player comes in contact with somebody who has tested positive, they're going to need to go 14 days symptom-free from the date of exposure. And if a family member has it, we're going to again ask that that player go 14 days symptom-free before they can return. Now, we could be in a situation, parents, where a player comes to the session, goes home, and then all of a sudden we test positive. The timing of this is going to be very tricky. So this is why we are disinfecting the facility. This is why we are cleaning the bathrooms multiple times during the sessions. This is why we're using the side doors to enter, exit, and this is why we have the gap in between sessions, because we want the facility to get back to neutral. We want the facility to be completely disinfected by the time the next group comes into for their session. And what we're going to do is contact trace. All right, so a player has tested positive, we're going to contact trace. So we're going to contact every single player and all the families that were on that court within that time slot in that session, and we're going to alert them via email. We're not going to use any names, but we're going to tell them there's a player that was on your court that has tested positive. That entire group, that entire court has now been elevated to the contact protocol. The last scenario that we could be in is secondary contact. Your player has been in contact with someone who has tested positive and may have come to the session not knowing. We would like you to let us know if that happens in those situations, parents, because I think in good faith and good measurement, we want to alert everybody on that court. That doesn't mean that that player has tested positive, but we still would like to give a heads up to everybody on that court that, hey, there was a player that has come in contact with someone who has tested positive. They haven't tested or hasn't got a negative test yet, but we think it's appropriate that we let everybody know. Obviously, if that player does end up testing positive, then everybody has now been elevated to the contact protocol, all right? We have all seen how fast this information changes. So parents, if any of these protocols need to adjust or need to change, we're going to let you know at that time, okay? If a player needs to sit out a little bit longer or whatever it might be, we will let you know when that happens. But these are the protocols that we have followed. These are the ones that we're going to continue to follow. At the end of the day, parents, these times are going to take and require honesty. We followed these protocols when we had players who tested positive, and it did not spread throughout any courts. It didn't spread to any other sessions. Our goal is to make sure we limit the impact when we have an occurrence. As an organization, parents, this is what we can do to make sure we keep our staff as well as your player and all the players safe. But parents, we need you to act in accordance to this guidance as well. We need to be locked in stride right now, have open communication, have honest dialogue with one another so we can make sure our staff stays safe, but we can also make sure your child and everybody else's child stays safe as we continue to go into the fall and the winter approaches. Okay, parents, I'm standing in the front lobby area now, and as I just said, the front lobby, concession area, and film room are going to be closed. I understand that that's a little bit difficult for parents because you want to watch your player play, and we would love to have you in here as well, but we want to do our part. I think if everybody does their part, then we could try to get through this as fast and as quickly and as safe as possible, okay? But if a player had to use the front door, all right, so that means they were either late, maybe we had bad weather, or it's a shooting machine or private instruction that's going on. We have our sneeze guard here, as well as our non-contact thermometer, so we're still going to get players' temperatures as they come in. This is something that we implemented even in phase 3 back when we were able to reopen June 1st, okay? What we also have is some hand sanitizer here, so we want players to come get a pump real quick before they head into the gym, okay? Last thing that I want to show everybody is our double doors into the gym are going to remain open. Anything we can do to reduce hand touching surfaces, we're going to do. To me, that's a very common sense approach, a very easy thing, kind of no-brainer thing that we can do, okay? So we'll have those double doors open so we don't have a lot of hands touching and opening up the doors. Hand sanitizer, non-contact thermometers, taking temperatures of players as well. Let's check out what things are going to look like with our players entering and exiting the building now. As I said, parents, we will be using the side doors for all group training. As you approach the facility, the north side of the buildings will have doors labeled number 1, 2, and 3. The south side of the building will have doors number 4, 5, and 6. Okay, parents, so I'm standing outside of the building, and as we discussed before in all the previous videos, everybody's done a great job. All summer we were able to run a successful summer program because parents followed the rules, okay, and so did the players. We're gonna have to continue to do that, all right? Next thing I want to discuss is what our building capacity looks like, because I don't want people to maybe be concerned when they see the parking lot and maybe the parking lot's full and you might think that we're not following our guidelines, okay? We need to keep in mind we have a building that's over 50,000 square foot big. Okay, per phase 3 and phase 4 before guidelines. It didn't change in terms of building capacity. We're allowed 50%. All right, so what that would look like, if we can imagine what each court looks like, there's 6 baskets on a court. We end up generally using 4 side baskets most of the time when we train, all right? So it ended up being 4 groups of 10 generally is what that would look like. I'm gonna add in further restrictions and take that down to 3, all right? But we'll show you what that looks like. But let's just do the math and follow me on this. So if we're at 600 with capacity, 50% of that would be 300. We're gonna stay even underneath that, even with players in the weight room, just to add an extra layer of protection, okay? So I wanna make sure, again, just trying to be transparent, be upfront. When you turn the corner, you look at the parking lot and we have players in the gym and a session going on before you and the parking lot looks full, we don't want you to think that, oh, hey, they're breaking some rules or they're trying to sneak one in. That's not what this is about at all. So I wanna be upfront, we wanna be honest, let you know what the building capacity is gonna be, and obviously when we're exchanging from session to session during that 10-minute break, there's gonna be a lot of players that are leaving, there's going to be a lot of players that are coming, okay? I just want to make sure we keep that in mind, all right? So let's head around here now again to the building, all right? So I am once again going to be walking towards the south side of the building, all right? And that's where we'll have doors 4, 5, and 6, okay? This time, parents, I decided to use some of our female athletes to show what's going on. So they will be down here waiting, again, practicing social distance while they're waiting in line, and then coming around the corner. Every player is gonna have their face mask on, all right? That's extremely important, parents. We all gotta make sure we're doing our part, okay? If a player does not have their face mask, we are gonna ask them to go back to their car, get your face mask, and then come in to enter the building, all right? We can see up here, our coaches are taking the temperatures with our non-contact thermometers. Once the players are clear, they're able to enter the building. As players enter the building, we will have hand sanitizer at every scorer's table. We'll ask them to get a pump, and then they will sit down and wipe their basketballs off. Parents, when the session's over, we're gonna have the coach call them in. We're gonna break it out, then the players are gonna go back to their benches, wipe the basketballs off, put their face mask back on, and then they're gonna exit the gym. After the players have exited the building, the coaches are going to make sure they glove up. They're gonna grab the disinfectant spray as well as the rag that'll be on every scorer's table, and then they will disinfect the bleachers and the benches. Parents, no doubt these are some interesting times, but these are times that we definitely have to take serious. As we continue to head into the fall and the winter approaches, this is where we want to tighten up here at M14, not loosen up. We want to be able to provide a facility and an environment that's safe and healthy for your players, because we want to continue to at least have some sort of normalcy for them, okay? We understand that these are difficult times, but for their mental health, but also for their physical health, we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to have them still come into an environment that's safe, where they can play the sport that they love. So with your help, we'll be able to do that. We'll see you guys in the gym. Stay healthy and safe.